Hi everybody, this is Rob Windsor, and in this video I want to show you how you can create an Office 365 developer tenant. An Office 365 developer tenant is a free tenant that you can use for learning, and you can use it for development and testing of extensions to Office 365. For example, SharePoint Framework Web Parts, or a Power App, or a Teams tab. So the first step in creating an Office 365 developer tenant is to register with the Office 365 developer program. And to do that, you'll need a Microsoft account. So, and every Microsoft account is associated with an email address. So if you already have an email address, then you can go ahead and use that. You can also do what I generally do, which is to create an email address specifically to be associated with the developer tenant. And that's what I've done in this case. So here I have a Gmail account. Now, because this account is not created with Microsoft, it isn't a Microsoft account. So I'm going to need to make it one, or at least create a Microsoft account associated with this email. So to do that, I'll open up a new tab and I'll navigate to account.microsoft.com. And then here I'll click Create a Microsoft Account. And then I'll put in my Gmail address. So that's, Rob Windsor Test 982 at gmail.com. And then I'll create a password for the Microsoft account. Now it's sent an email to my Gmail account to verify. So if I come over here, there's the email I just received. So there's the code. Now it wants me to solve a puzzle so they know I'm not a robot. I haven't done this before. Okay. Oh, we need to rotate the image. There we go. So now the turtle is no longer on their back. So it looks like my Microsoft account has been created. It has. Cool. Stay signed in. Sure, I'll say yes for this. So now I've created my Microsoft account. So the next step is to go register. The next step is to add my name. To be able to create a Office, or basically to be able to register with the Office 365 developer program, the account has to have your first and last name. So that didn't come over from Gmail. So I'll click Add Your Name. And then I'll put in my first and last name. And I'll enter the characters, if I can decipher them correctly. And save. Okay, so that took. So I'm all good now. All right, so I have a Microsoft account, and the Microsoft account has been configured with my first and last name. All right, so that's all I need. Now I'll go to another tab, and I'll search for Office 365 Developer Program. And then so developer.microsoft.com/Microsoft365/dev program. So that'll take me to a page that looks like this. And then what I'm going to do is click Join Now. Now I'm going to log in with my Microsoft account. So Rob Windsor Test 982 at gmail.com. I typed that in incorrectly. That's why it said not found. There we go. So what is my country? Canada. What's my company? I'll just put here I'm independent. English. Yep. I accept the terms and conditions. I do. I would like information, tips, and offers. Sure, we'll do that. And then click next. All right, so now it's going to ask me some information about how I'm going to use my developer tenant that will be set up in the next step. Okay, so what industry do I work in? I work in IT. What's my primary focus? So custom solutions for my own customers is my primary focus. What are my areas of interest? So Azure AD, Teams, Office 365, OneDrive, Power Apps, SharePoint, technologies, actionable messages, adaptive cards, Fluid Framework, Microsoft Graph, identity platform, SharePoint framework, tabs, services. So I'm interested in working with users and groups, calendars, change notifications, extensions, files, identity and access, mail, notifications, search, sites and lists, I think teamwork, and then platforms. Let's go with ASP.NET, C#, HTML, JavaScript, jQuery, Node.js, React, REST API, TypeScript, and that's it. And of course, the selections that you'll choose might be very different than the ones I've chosen. Those just happen to be areas that I'm interested in. And then I'll click Join. Okay, so we'll get a little bit of a spinny here while it completes that process. And now is the important part, which is actually setting up the Office 365 developer tenant, which we do by clicking on this button right here. Okay. So it's going to ask me for the region I'm in. I'm in Canada. Create a username. So this will be the global administrator account associated with this tenant. So I'll say the username is Rob. And then the domain is the domain you're going to have for your tenant. So for example, I've used the email address robwindsortest982. So let's put that in there. robwindsortest982. So this will create an account which is rob@robwindsortest.onmicrosoft.com. And for example, when I go to navigate to SharePoint, robwindsortest982. So when I go to navigate to SharePoint, it'll be robwindsortest982.sharepoint.com. That'll be the address to the root site collection in my SharePoint online tenant. So basically, when it says create domain, you're really naming your developer tenant. And now I'll create a password for this account. Okay, and I've typed those in correctly. So now continue. Now it's going to ask me to add a phone number for security. So basically it wants to do have a way of doing secondary authentication to be able to create this developer tenant. So I'm going to type in my phone number here, which I will mask out in the recording of this video. So I'm going to send that code. It's going to ask me to do a CAPTCHA test here. Taxis, there's no taxis. All right. So it has now sent a text message to my phone. I'll put in the code that it sent me. And then click setup. And it is now going through the process of setting up my developer tenant. Now, this process, and I'm not exactly sure where it occurs, but when you click set up your subscription, that blue button that we can see in the sort of towards the top left, you may get a message saying that the service that creates tenants is busy. So if that's the case, what you need to do is just wait a little bit, come back to the Office 365 Developer Program site, and then authenticate again with your Microsoft account, and try to create your tenant, later on. Okay, so it is possible that you'll get that message. I didn't in this case. Okay, so now what it's telling me is that I have a renewable E5 subscription. So this is a 25 user license tenant. Each user has an E5 subscription, and the tenant lasts for 3 months as a starting point. Now you notice it says renewable. So what happens is that Microsoft monitors the usage of this tenant, and if you're using it on a regular basis for development or learning, they'll recognize that. Their telemetry will recognize that, and it will automatically renew for another 3 months. So as long as you continue to use the tenant, it will continue to auto-renew. Now, it's been my experience that not all air quotes development gets monitored by the telemetry. And I think that's evolving over time. So as an example, I've had a developer tenant where I've done quite a bit of work with Power Automate flows, but that tenant did not get auto-renewed. So the telemetry wasn't monitoring building of flows. I believe for a time, building Power Apps didn't get monitored by the telemetry, but I believe that it's been added in. So it's possible that what you've been doing doesn't get monitored. And I believe if that's the case and your tenant does not get renewed, that you can send a support request into Microsoft to have it get renewed. The alternative is to just create another developer tenant. So, create another email address, make that a Microsoft account if it isn't already, and then go re-register and you get another tenant. The drawback to that is if you had any data, like, for example, SharePoint sites or data, that doesn't get brought over. Another point I want to make right here is the sample data packs. So, and this is, again, something that will evolve over time, but Microsoft gives you the option to populate your tenant with sample data. And right now, that is users, so you can create some sample user accounts. I believe it's like 16 or 17 different users. And then once you've added those users using the sample data pack, you can then add mail, so mail messages and events, calendar events for those users as another sample data pack. So I'm going to click on the users sample data pack here. And what it's going to do now, you can see it is 16 users. So what this is going to do is use the Microsoft Graph to create these users. So I need to sign in again with the same account, with the account for my tenant. So again, that's Rob at robwindsortest982.onmicrosoft.com. So I'll put in my password here. Okay. And then it's going to ask basically for permissions to be able to create those user accounts. Right. So this is an Azure AD app that is requesting all these permissions to be able to go in and create these accounts. So you can either choose to accept these permission requests or not. If you don't, of course, the sample users will not be created. I will accept these permission requests. And now it's going to go ahead and run the app that will create the users. And to be able to do that, it's going to ask me what password do I want to give these sample users. So I will create a password for them. And then click install here. Okay, so now it's going off and creating those sample users. Now it takes 10 or 15 minutes for your Office 365 developer tenant to get fully provisioned. And I guess technically it could take longer if the service is busy, but generally it takes 10 to 15 minutes. So I've just stopped the video recording and then waited and 10 or 15 minutes, and now I've come back. So let me open up another browser window here. And I've already navigated to office.com. And now I can click sign in. And I will sign in with the account that I created for my developer tenant. So that's Rob at Rob Windsor Test. Let me make sure I type that correctly. Test 982.onmicrosoft.com. And again, make sure I type that in correctly. And then click next. And then enter my password. Click sign in. And sure, we'll stay signed in. And this takes us to the Office homepage. So from here, I can open up Outlook. And that'll take me to my, my email inbox. And then I can open up, say, SharePoint. And that'll take me to the SharePoint homepage, where I have this little welcome dialog, so I can just next through that. And then just navigate to the root site collection of my SharePoint tenant. So that's Rob Windsor Test 982.sharepoint.com. And then I can go to Teams here. And just say that I want to use the Teams web app, and that'll open up Teams for my tenant and so on. And again, you'll get a little welcome dialog for basically, I don't know about all the apps, but a lot of the apps. So you can see that I have access to, SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, Outlook. I have Word Online, Excel Online, PowerPoint Online, and so on. And then this user is the global admin. So I also have access to the admin portal for my tenant. So here I can open up users and click on active users. And here you can see Rob Windsor. So that's the account I created when I created the developer tenant. And then we can also see the sample user accounts that were created by installing the sample data pack. So these are all standard Microsoft sample users that I can use when working with this tenant, doing development, and so on. I have the ability to sign in as any one of these users using their email address and the password that I assigned when I installed the sample data pack. So that's basically the process that you can use to create an Office 365 developer tenant. Again, it is a free 25 user developer tenant. You have 25 E5 developer licenses. It lasts for 3 months by default. And if you continue to use it, Microsoft Telemetry will recognize that, and it will auto renew your tenant for additional 3-month period. And that continues on every 3 months. So I hope you found this video valuable. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.